Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 6. Let's go through what we're going to be covering for this week. We'll be on chapter 6, memory. So the learning objectives are listed here for memory. We'll just go through kind of an overview of what you're going to be working on. We'll be starting out by looking at the different theories of memory model processing. So there's a few different ones. Each one sort of builds upon the former. So all are very accurate representations of how we store memories and how we retrieve memories. But you are going to need to know just some of the slight differences between them, looking at working memory and how we process short-term memories. You'll also want to be familiar with how we take in information, how that happens sometimes very automatically in terms of processing, in contrast to times when it's more effortful, and know examples of how each of those happens, the automatic processing and the more purposeful processing that we actually have to use different tricks and cues to make memories stick. We'll be looking at the different types of encoding that we do. So encoding is basically taking information from the environment and processing it, and we do that visually, acoustically, and semantically. Semantic being the meaning that we encode from things, and attaching meaning to something. Acoustic is what we hear, and visual is what we see, and how we remember those bits of information. And then we'll also look at some different encoding strategies. How can you improve your memory encoding? How can you get more memories in, I guess, is the sort of the golden question that everybody asks, especially when we're students and we're studying and we want to know how to process information faster and smarter. So we're looking at some different strategies for doing that. Then we'll start breaking down the various parts of memory. So sensory memory and what its duration is and capacity. It's also what relays right into short-term or working memory. So we'll sort of look at the structure of what working memory looks like, as well as how we transfer memories over from short-term to long-term memory, what that capacity and duration is like, as well as the biological changes that can underlie memory formation and the storage of memories. We'll be looking also at implicit and explicit memories and identifying the various brain structures that are associated with each. So this is going to be where the material that you learned in chapter 2 is really going to come into play, understanding the different parts of the brain and how each is involved very differently in the ways in which we store and retrieve memories, depending upon the types of memories. Will dictate which part of our brain is used. So it might help you to go back to chapter 2 as you're kind of working through this chapter and just sort of remembering what those brain functions are and where they're located. Looking at some of the diagrams that are in chapter 2 will be really helpful. We'll also be looking at recall, recognition, and retrieval cues. So all of these are ways in which we access stored memories. So once a memory is formed, how do we get it back out? We'll look at the impact of environmental contexts on that, how environment matters, and retrieval cues around us, as well as your internal emotional states, how that can affect retrieval of memories. And this will be really interesting when we start talking about mental disorders like PTSD, and anxiety disorders are very related to emotional state in which memories are being accessed to past experiences. And then sort of the latter part of the chapter will get into forgetting, why do we forget, what makes us forget, the role of encoding failure and storage decay over time, which contribute to the process of forgetting. We'll look at retrieval failure and the effects of interference on retrieval processing, as well as motivated forgetting, when we actually want to try to forget certain details or instances. Again, important in cases of trauma or anything that might affect the individual very emotionally, can affect how we retrieve those memories later on, and if we even can. And then parts 11, 12, and 13, as you see here, are going to deal with a very applied aspect of memory and forgetting, which is eyewitness testimony. We'll be looking at misinformation, imagination, and source amnesia, and how all three of those can distort our memory of an event, and why it is sort of difficult to distinguish between true and false memories. Sometimes we do not encode things properly to begin with, and so we have an inaccurate memory, albeit a memory nonetheless, and it's our memory, and we often believe in the veracity of those memories. However, if we didn't process the information accurately to begin with, the memory is never true, or accurate, I should say. So we'll be looking at that, and specifically looking at it through the work of Elizabeth Loftus in her eyewitness reports. Also looking at the controversy over reports of repressed and recovered memories, and the different techniques that psychologists as well as law enforcement officials use in trying to enhance memory retrieval in situations where it deals with eyewitness testimony reports. So this is very linked to your discussion for this week, as well as your Hawk reading, which is actually on the work of Elizabeth Loftus. So you'll want to be integrating a lot of the chapter during this discussion post, as well as the Hawk reading. So for the discussion, you're going to be looking at what is the problem of memory reconstruction, what is going on in the brain when we reconstruct a memory for an event, why is it unreliable. You'll want to use examples and concepts from the reading and from your textbook. And then based on how memory works, based on everything you learned in Chapter 6, how might law enforcement officials use that information and use the work of Loftus to better understand eyewitness accounts? What can they do to improve their process of gathering eyewitness testimony, given the fact that memories are often not encoded properly and can be distorted? What might law enforcement officials do to help that, or to try to gain more accurate and reliable reports? So you're basing all of this on the evidence that the research shows. Okay, so I want you going back and looking for those examples and supporting your statements as you write. And then the last question you're going to be talking about is dealing with the reliability of repressed memories. So how do you feel about people who report repressed memories of past abuse? So somebody claiming, all of a sudden, I have a memory of being abused when I was, 10. I'm now 50. Haven't thought about this, haven't ever brought it up, and now I am. We've had cases where that's happening, and Loftus says, that's actually really not true. Like that just can't happen. Well, why? Why does she say that? What information is she using to back that up? What research does she have that even supports that she would be in the right there? So you're going to be looking at the latter part of the Hawk reading, where it talks about this repressed memory controversy and sort of knowing both sides of the controversy. And I want you being informed of what the research shows, because it's fine to have an opinion, and we all do think certain things, but this has been a widely researched area of intense discussion, and we have some pretty valid information that now supports this idea that a lot of times those repressed memories can be brought about by therapists, actually, in a clinical setting, and through the use of hypnosis, which can bring about insert false memories into the minds of the people who are recalling them. So you're going to be discussing some of that. So kind of two parts, looking at eyewitness testimony and then looking at repressed memories. So that'll wrap up your discussion for the week. I have your lecture slides here. You want to take a look at those in conjunction with the readings. And then I've also posted 2 short videos. They're each about 10-11 minutes long. One deals with how we make memories, and the other one deals with remembering and forgetting. So this one's encoding, how do we store memories? And this one is retrieval, how do we get them back out when we want to use them? So make sure to watch those. Also make sure that you're watching the videos that are embedded in the e-text reading in Revel. So as you're noticing, as you go through and you're reading, it'll stop you. And there's certain segments where you can watch a video clip. You should definitely be watching those because it explains concepts as we go and as you're reading. And they're often very quick, but vital to your understanding of the material. All right, so once you've done all of that, you'll be ready to take your quiz number 5. That quiz will be open until Friday, 11:59 p.m. And that is it for the week. Just remember to, just want to say quickly, when you're working on your discussions this week, you should be giving yourself enough time. Your original discussion post, you have until Thursday to get that in, and then you can respond to 3 other people by Saturday. So I noticed last week some people were posting on Monday. I really don't think you're giving yourself enough time if you're posting on Monday to work through all the material, the videos, and so forth. So you want to make sure that you're doing that, because it's going to provide you with a better discussion post. You're going to have more to say. And also, if you're posting super early in the week, you're not reading everybody's posts because they haven't all posted. Most people post around Wednesday or Thursday. So you want to make sure that you have a chance to really get a good view of everyone's posts before you decide which 3 you want to respond to. And allowing a little bit more time for that is going to open that up a little bit. So make sure that you're doing that. And then also make sure there's a handful of people last week that didn't respond to 3 other posts. So once you finished your original posting and you've replied to these questions, you kind of want to be checking the discussion board throughout the week, and then go ahead and pick, the top 3 that you want to respond to, and leave yourself enough time. And as well, as you're responding to those posts, make sure that you're integrating in the readings and supporting everything you're saying with examples from those readings, which will help, again, to just bolster your responses. All right, so that's it for the week. Please let me know if you have any questions, and have a great week, everybody.